This video is sponsored by the Magic Candle Company. Visit the link in the description down below and use offer code OFFHAND15 for 15% off your whole purchase. Get the churro candle, I recommend it. Makes your house smell like churros.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
On May 14, 1804, the Corps of Discovery set off from Camp Dubois in order to explore President Thomas Jefferson's recently purchased Louisiana Purchase. The expedition team, led by Captain Meriwether Lewis and Second Lieutenant William Clark, would go down in history as one of the most famous expeditions to explore the newly expanded United States of America. More than 100 years later, in the very same state where Lewis and Clark left to start their historic expedition, a young boy was gifted a drawing pad by his Aunt Margaret and began what would become his lifelong passion of animation. That young boy's name was Walt Disney, and after he had grown up and built the brand new entertainment destination known as Disneyland, he was approached by the then mayor of St. Louis, Raymond Tucker, about a very interesting business opportunity. With the construction of the St. Louis Gateway Arch and the Bush Memorial Stadium well underway, the mayor wanted another attraction for the area, something that would draw visitors from all over the world, something that only Walt Disney could deliver. This is the history of what would become the canceled second Disney theme park in the United States. This is the history of Walt Disney's canceled Riverfront Square. After the construction of Disneyland in 1955, Walt Disney was done with theme parks for the time being. He wasn't opposed to building other Disney theme parks, he just wasn't concerning himself with it at the time after the monumental achievement that Disneyland was, both in construction and in completion. By 1963 though, Walt's tune had changed quite a bit, and he met with the mayor of St. Louis, Raymond Tucker, to discuss plans for a new project overseen by Disney to be built at the Riverfront area of St. Louis, which at the time was undergoing a major redevelopment for the city's bicentennial celebration. At this point, Walt's plans weren't really for a brand new Disney theme park. Instead, they were more akin to a sort of early Disney Springs or Downtown Disney. Various shopping and dining locations spread across the riverfront, with one or two different attractions and installations designed by Walt Disney Imagineers, or WED at the time. What Walt wanted to do differently, however, was have this entire location be indoors, or at least under some sort of massive cover, like something you'd see at the old Strip in Las Vegas. But what happened with Mickey Mouse Park about 15 years prior happened here again. Walt's plans for the indoor shopping center soon grew and became a full-fledged second Disney theme park. Riverfront Square was planned to be an homage to Old St. Louis and Old New Orleans. Old New Orleans. In a similar way to the Magic Kingdom in Orlando today, the park would have been on two different floors. What would be different here though is guests would be able to access both floors, the top floor being reserved for dining and restaurants, shopping, things like that. Essentially, imagine if Disneyland was two floors and the top floor was Downtown Disney and the bottom floor was Disneyland. Below the shopping district, the entrance to the park was planned on being very similar to Disneyland's, with a Main Street USA style street leading you to the hub of the park. The difference here being that one side of the street would be based on Old St. Louis and the other on New Orleans. If you can't tell, Walt Disney was very interested in New Orleans around this time, and New Orleans Square was under construction at Disneyland around this same time. Part of me thinks the Big Easy inspiration came from Walt's interest in the city. The other part of me thinks it was just easier to asset flip New Orleans Square from Disneyland onto Riverside Square. But what is a Disney park without the rides and attractions? They really help tie the whole experience together, and it's what most people go to the Disney parks for. Not me though, that's the beignets. First and foremost would be a brand new e-ticket style Disney attraction called the Lewis and Clark Adventure. I'm going to be doing a lot of guessing as to what the attractions actually entailed because not a lot exists of concepts for this park. I imagine because Lewis and Clark did lots of their exploration by boat that it would have been a boat ride similar to Pirates of the Caribbean, or It's a Small World at the time because pirates didn't exist. Speaking of Pirates of the Caribbean though, there was going to be an adaptation of the Disneyland attraction at Riverfront Square. Of course, what started as a Pirates Walk Through Wax Museum eventually evolved into the boat ride we all know today, and it seems like this version of Pirates of the Caribbean would have been an exact replica of the one at Disneyland because there was also going to be the Blue Bayou restaurant attached. Maybe they could have thrown some Jean Lafitte references in there, I don't know. There would be another attraction based on folk legend Mike Fink, who's known for driving his keelboats up and down the Mississippi River. This would probably be a clone of the Mike Fink keelboats from Disneyland, boats that went down and up the rivers of America, one of which you can still find docked at Disneyland today. A ride based on the folk legend Davy Crockett, which probably would have been a transplant of the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes, also from Disneyland. Although who knows, it could have been maybe another e-ticket attraction because Walt was very interested in audio animatronics around this time. Now this one really interests me. It says that there is going to be an attraction based on the Merrimack Caves of Missouri. The Merrimacks are a cavern system in the Ozark Mountains near Stanton, Missouri, and various pre-Columbian Native American artifacts have been found in the caves. How you would make these caves into an attraction, I don't really know. Maybe you guys have some ideas. What would your Merrimack Cave attraction be like? Would it be a boat ride, an Omnimover style ride like the Haunted Mansion, or maybe a roller coaster similar to the Matterhorn? I'd love to hear what you guys think, because I honestly have no clue. And of course, it wouldn't be vintage Disney parks without two Circarama theaters showing films about St. Louis. You can find Circarama movies in the parks today, known as Circle Vision, and mostly at Epcot. There would also be a walk-through bird aviary, probably similar to Disney's Discovery Island in Orlando before, they just left it there. And curiously enough, there would be a tiny version of Fantasyland in this New Orleans, St. Louis themed park. The mini Fantasyland would have Peter Pan's Flight, Snow White's Adventures, and Pinocchio's Daring Journey, which didn't actually exist at Disneyland at the time, so I'm just going to call it the Pinocchio ride. And of course, what is a Disney Fantasyland without a wishing well? There was also a wishing well. And of course, I saved the best for last because there was supposed to be a haunted house attraction, intended to probably be a transplant of what would eventually become the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, although at this point, looking at the blueprints, it seems to be more of a walk-through attraction rather than the Omnimover style we ended up with. And you can even see the stretching room in the blueprints, so obviously the stretching room was around in the plans for the Haunted Mansion from almost the very beginning. So now this obviously sounds very fine and dandy, but when you visit the St. Louis Arch today, there is an odd lack of a Disney park there. You visit the arch, you look around, and you wonder, where's the Haunted Mansion? Where's Pirates of the Caribbean? Where are the Mike Fink keel boats, for God's sake? What happened to this lost Disney park, and why don't we have it today? And the answer really isn't as exciting as you'd think. There's a rumor about Disney's Riverfront park that says that the owner of Anheuser-Busch, August Busch, wanted Disney to sell alcohol in the park, and Walt said no, he will never sell alcohol in his parks. Magic Kingdom in Orlando and Oga's Cantina at Disneyland say hello, but it's whatever. And because Bush had such a hand in the development of this new area, Disney was kicked out for refusing to play by his rules. In reality, it all just came down to money. Walt thought that with St. Louis inviting Disney in and having them build this park on their property, that the city, or at least the people behind the new renovation project of the area, would give Disney some of the money to build Riverfront Square, and that did not happen. St. Louis expected Disney to foot most of the bill, and when Walt found out about this, of course, Disney canceled their project. Of course, you can still find remnants of it today at Disneyland, mainly in New Orleans Square, and like I said, the Mike Fink keel boats, but the story of Riverfront Square does not end there. Eventually, and unfortunately, when Riverfront Square fell through, August Busch would recontact the Disney company a few years later, this time asking Disney if they were interested in building another vacation destination, not in Orlando, not in St. Louis, but instead this time in Dallas, Texas. Hello everybody, thank you for watching my video on Disney's Riverfront Square. This is part 1 of a 3-part episode series I'm going to be doing on the canceled Disney locations all around the world. So if you're interested in hearing about the next canceled Disney project I'm going to be talking about, please hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, hit the bell icon. When I upload next, you'll be able to be one of the first people to view this next video on this canceled Disney location. The names you see scrolling past right now are, of course, the names of my Patreon patrons. There's a link in the description down below if you would like to join this list of names. They get early access to things like episode audio and sometimes even a sneak preview of the video itself. So if that interests you, or you just want to support the channel, head over to the Patreon link in the description below. And like I said earlier, this video is sponsored by the Magic Candle Company. Visit the link in the description down below, use code OFFHAND15 and get yourself some pirate water smelling candles. Make your house smell like Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know how many times I have to run this past you guys. If you've already gotten the Pirate's Life candle though, I recommend the Churro or the Dole Whip candle because those also make your house smell like my favorite Disney treats. A big thank you to them for sponsoring this video, and finally a big thank you to you for watching this video. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next one, part 2 of the abandoned canceled Disney projects. Goodbye.